Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session on the Build with AI event by GDG Abuja. So, in this event or in this video, I'm just going to walk you through how to get started with Gemini AI. Gemini AI is Google's own artificial intelligence model. It's a model that has both text, image, audio, data support, and so on. Hence, why Gemini is considered a multimodal artificial intelligence model. So without wasting too much time, let's just get started. The first thing you need is to get an API key to use Gemini. And for you to get an API key, you come to this link aistudio.google.com/app/API key. So from here, you can get an API key, you can create new, and so on. So if you already have an API key, there's no need for you to create a new one if you can use that API key. Or if you don't, you can create a new project and add an API key to it. So for security reasons, I'm not going to share my API key. So I'm just going to copy it off screen. So once you have your API key, you can go on to install the necessary packages for using Gemini. And for me, I'm using PyCharm for this project. I've already created an empty project that has just the main Py file and two image files that I'm going to use for this demonstration. So once you have this set up, the reason why I use PyCharm is because PyCharm already comes with automatically creates a virtual environment when you create a project. So the packages I'm going to install or the libraries I'm going to install are not going to mess with my system's Python setup. So with that, if you're using PyCharm, you can just come to the terminal. So you can come to the terminal and you can install these packages. Pip install, if I can spell install Google dash generative AI. So we install this. Then we also need LangChain dot Google dash gen AI. Then we also need Streamlit. So we're going to use all this for this project. So once you have this, you can now hit install, and Pip is just going to go on to install all the files. So I've already done this already, so I don't need to install this, but you can just hit enter, and for me, I'll see requirement already satisfied, right? Now, now we have our library set up, we have our project set up, and we have our API keys, right? So it's time for us to start writing our code. Now remember, the API key is supposed to be super secret, so please do not share that. Just like I'll try my best not to share this on screen. So I'll just come and create a new Python project here. I'll just call this gem.py. So it's going to be a Py file. Then I'll import Google generative AI. I'm going to import the generative AI as gen AI. I'm also going to import the OS. So I'm going to use this OS now to configure our API key. So from here, I can now say os.environs. So I'm setting up my Google API key, and so this is where our API key is going to be. So I'm just going to do something off screen here. So let me create a new file, call this my secret. So let me just call this a class. So So this is where I'm going to pass my API key, and I'm going to call this as a variable in all the other files. So I'm just going to paste the key off screen. So I'm back to this file. I can now say from my secrets, say import, what's the class name? So okay, secrets dot Google API key. So this is just going to replace the API key. This way I don't have to share it on the screen. So the key is currently in this file, so I'm just accessing the variable like this. So if I had other things I want to use privately, I can put them in this file, and I can just access them that way. It's just a rough way of just avoiding showing the key on screen. So I'm going to configure API key. So the API key is going to be equal to the os.environ, the same thing we have here. So I'll just take this so I don't have to type it again. So at this stage now, we've configured our model. So like we said, Gemini is a multimodal AI model. So we can preview the list of models we have within Gemini. So we can say for models in something wrong with my N key, Gen AI. You can now list models. So within this, we can say if generate content in models, then we can now print the model's name. So basically we're just iterating through the list of Gemini models, and we're looking for the generative AI models, and we're now printing their names. So if I run this, you should be able to see some response. Yes, so we have our response here. We have Gemini 1.0 Pro, we have 001, we have the latest, we have Vision, and we have regular Gemini Pro and Pro Vision. So we're going to use we're going to be focusing on these last two. So let me just do this. Should I leave this? Yes, let's just go on. So let's go on and use our Gemini Pro model and see if we can ask it some questions. So we can now create a new model. Let me come back here and say model. Just call it model, and our model now is going to be this dot generative model, and we now pass this name, the name of the model we want. So what we want is Gemini Pro. So with this Gemini Pro now, we have an instance of the Gemini Pro model, and we can query it for different questions. So what I can do now, I can say response model dot generate content. So within this generate content, we can now pass our query as a string. So I'll just use single quotes. So I can say what is a healthy diet. Then I can print one with my keyboard, print the response. So let's see what we have here. So if we return the model, so our query is loading, the response to our question is loading. So you can see it here as a markdown, right? A healthy diet is one that provides essential nutrients, carbohydrates, blah blah blah. So we have that. So let me just make this easy for us to read. I'll just get the text instead. So let's run gem again. So we've gotten the list of our models from line 10. It's now loading the response for our question. Yes, so this looks a lot better. So this is returning a markdown file. So if you know markdown, you know that this is a bold statement and so on. So key components to a healthy diet: fruits, vegetables, blah blah blah. So if you like, you can customize this now to say you can call this query, and this can be input say enter your question, and you can now replace this with query. So this way the user can enter something dynamic. So this is just basically how to use the Gemini Pro model for text data. So now let's use the vision model. So I'm just going to create a new Python file. I'll call this gem-vision. Gem-vision. So I'll come back here and take the configuration from before. And I'll paste this here. So basically, I've re-imported generative AI as Gen AI, imported OS, and I've added my secrets so that I don't have to write my API key on screen. So with that done now, the next stage is to select the model that I want to use, right? So I'll call this vision model, and this is going to be equal to our Gen AI dot Google generative model, and I can now pass in the name of the model, which is Gemini Pro Vision. So this is Gemini Pro Vision. Now for us to process image data and so on, right, we need to load an image into we need to send an image to the Gemini model and get a response for that. So for us to do that, we have to use Python image library. So I'm just going to, well, let me just import this at the beginning. Import so we import this, then I can now say image is equal to so we just open, we're just going to put the footy.jpg image. So we're just going to pass that image. Now we can use this image now as a parameter in our query. So we can now say response is equal to vision, our vision model dot generate content, and we can now pass in our query. Say what is happening in this image. Then we can pass in the image value, which is the image we are trying to run the query from on. So this we can just print our response dot text. So if we run this now, just run gem vision. So should just get only our response. So it says this is a famous image of Cristiano Ronaldo scoring a goal for Real Madrid against Juventus in the 2018 UEFA Champions League quarterfinals. Ronaldo is known for his extreme athleticism and for its and this goal is a perfect example of its ability to jump high and score goals. So for those wondering what the image is, this is what the image is, right? So we can see that our model did, or Gemini did a very good job um, generating content regarding this. So so this is all fine and good, but let's come back here and talk about a couple of things. So yes, so let's get back here to talk about a couple of things because this model runs faster. So we can do print. Something else that is returned to us is also the response prompt feedback, right? So the response prompt feedback just gives us an idea of why certain queries may fail and um, why certain queries fail, and we can use that now to handle or give better responses to our users because we know that you don't want your users to use these models to generate harmful content, and for sexually explicit content you have to be of the right age group and stuff like that, or hate speech, and so to control that you're giving this prompt feedback. So that prompt feedback now, so let's try this and see how much would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Hopefully I typed that correctly. So let's see what the response is. So a woodchuck could chuck about 700 pounds of wood if a woodchuck could chuck wood. I don't know how we got that answer, but what I want to draw your attention here now to is this safety ratings. So you notice we have a safety rating, and for all this, the safety rating for this particular query is negligible. So if you receive a query where it's not negligible, it's high, and so on, Gemini is not going to give you a response. And since Gemini is not giving you a response, it's up to you to handle and to give user-friendly feedback to your users. You're going to get an idea of what this is saying, right? Because you'll be able to access the category and the probability. So if you have a high probability, you can address that properly. For things for levels as low, medium, negligible, probably won't have any effect on your on the experience of your application. But once it gets to high, or something that is harmful or sexually explicit, hate speech or harassment or dangerous, you have to learn to handle that properly. Because if you ask it a question, it just throws an error instead, so you get an exception. So you have to be able to handle that using the values of the feedback. So I hope this helps everyone. There's also going to be a link to the notes for those that want to try the Streamlit part of the code lab. I'd like to see what you do and what your feedback is and your questions. Thank you.